Hey guys, Drutter here. It's the 19th of August 2013 and I'm just sitting out in the shade near my garden. Nice day. We haven't had a lot of heat this year, but we have had a decent amount of sunlight at least since the beginning of July anyhow. Quick look at my garden before I get started. This will be a silver and related topics video, but just wanted to show you the garden at the beginning, and I will have some footage from my main garden over at my grandma's house at the end of the video, and you're certainly excused if you don't want to watch the whole thing, but I will have some good stuff in here for you. I have a couple of friends, including one from the Middle East, he knows who he is, who like to see just you know, the greenery in the garden and what's going on here in Canada, the change of the seasons and stuff like that. So just wanted to give a shout out to him and to them. But that one there in the bucket is going over to my kids. As soon as the flowers finish coming out, I want the flowers to pollinate before I take them over there, because they don't have any other garden or anything else, so I want those flowers to actually turn to fruit once I give the plant over to them. So those will be here in the garden to get some pollination from the other plants. The 3 or 4 actually you see here, one sort of leaning over, but these 4 shorter ones are volunteers. They just came up in the garden because some tomatoes fell in last year when I harvested, I guess, and being heirloom seeds, they come up again. And the 3 along the back there are my orange organic heirloom seeds, and they are planted purposefully from the seedlings I planted earlier this year. So anyhow, I'm going to get going on with this video and hope you enjoy it. Shut up, would you? I'm doing a video. Briefly, before I get started with the silver analysis, I just wanted to point out that the Dow Jones and the stock market in general has been failing over the past couple of weeks here. They made a recent top, another record high again recently, but we have been moving down since then, and it's just pushing on that $15,000 level. And I think if it drops below that, technically speaking, it could be a retracement to the 14.5 level, which would put the stock market back into intermediate bear market. And they want that rally to continue. This is year to date, but we can look go back 3 years. And these major moves, it hasn't been too much of a major move, but if we talk about going back to 14.5, sorry you can't see the scale there, if you talk about going back to 14.5, that will look pretty bearish, similar to these other bearish crashes in the stock market, which were then met with more QE at each of these bottoms is another QE pushing the stock market higher. So if that happens, I'm expecting a little bit of a QE announcement of some kind, or a debt ceiling increase, or one of those major announcements from the Fed or from the US government, and just keep that in mind as I go on with this discussion. There's the daily silver chart with each bar being 1 day, and going back a couple of weeks we were down here at 19 looking like we're going to fall back to 18 again, and something happened and something changed. And I've said it before, I think what this is similar to the exact same thing exactly 1 year ago. We hit a bottom and then it just, for some reason, it just went up, 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 straight up from that point. And what I think that is insiders who know what's going on, know that there's an announcement coming. For example, a QE announcement, which is exactly what happened a year ago today, basically, was that QE3 to infinity announcement. And I think what they're going to do is there's going to be either a tapering announcement, or a continuation of QE, or a debt ceiling increase, or something like that, that is going to affect the market. And I think what's happening is that the insiders are pricing it in right now, and when the announcement comes, that's when they will sell off to everyone else. I mentioned a few days ago back in here that I was expecting 23, and we're now at 23.15. So, but I don't think that's the end. I think this will continue until the announcement comes. I think this is sort of just a couple of days breather, and not everything can go straight up. This is an incredible move. Endless Mountain was saying it is in the top sort of 10 to 20, top 20 or so all-time weeks kind of thing. So this is a very, very big move, comparatively speaking. But obviously if we zoom out, we can see silver is still way down in the doldrums down here, and it does still look overall, even with this major move up, it does look like very bearish, and I wouldn't rule out another crash down below $20, that's for sure. Here's an article on the website mining.com, and it's talking about a complete ban on gold imports and in fact gold sales of any kind within India. This is major. Imagine if the United States announced that they were no longer making silver eagles or gold eagles, and that in fact you couldn't even buy any kind of gold or silver at all, ever. That's pretty drastic, but what they're up against is a failure of the rupee right now, which has been falling over the past, I believe, months, or at least several weeks. And they've been putting import taxes on gold and silver, so it's raising the price up 6, 8, now even 10%. And now they've just thrown in the towel and said, you know what, it's illegal. You can't sell gold at all within the country. And so when you're reading this, gold coins, you know what coins are, that's government issued gold. Medallions, they're talking about gold rounds, like say a gold buffalo or whatever from a private company, that's what medallions are. And doors are bars, D-O-R-E-S, that's a bar. So you can't have gold bullion at all. It's not prohibited to own it. You can't transact in it at all anymore. So that's pretty alarming. Picture has nothing to do with the article, it's just a stock picture, but it's not a very long read. Have a look. They're talking about how they're importing 47 tons of gold in June, in a single month, and that's June. It's escalated far higher than that since June. It's way higher than that. So this is going to do a couple of things, I think. There'll be a black market increase. There's already a huge black market for gold and silver in Asia, especially India, so that will continue. The black market will get even larger. And the other thing I think is that people are potentially going to go into other things, like say US dollars or perhaps even Bitcoin. And we can move over to a Bitcoin chart. This is the daily Bitcoin chart. Each bar is 1 day, and this is the bottom at 66. I call it Da Vinci's bottom, although he's modest about it and says that that's not actually what he predicted. He says that he's predicting 26. I don't know, we're back up to 118, so I think he made the right call when he said that it would drop to 66, and it did, and ever since then it has been nothing but up. But this, look over the past week or so, as India, I think India's been sort of an issue for a while, but especially over this last few days, we're making new highs, and it looks like it broke above 120 today for the first time in quite some time. We can zoom out and look at the 3-day chart. That's the initial peak to 266, and the crash, and the stabilization around 100. But ever since that quick drop to 66, we've been moving upward, and I think that is being helped right now by people in India just scared of the rupee and unable to buy gold. So, what are they going to do? They can look at other currencies like the US dollar or currencies like Bitcoin. So I think some people are moving into Bitcoin right now, and I've been watching it move up over the past week and wondering if it's going to make perhaps a new high, maybe move up to 150 or so. As you'll remember, there was Cyprus was a major issue back here, and that's what sort of pushed us above the $50 mark the very first time when Bitcoin went up.
The way you pay for goods and services is about to change in a big way. We've been moving toward a cashless society for some time now, but a controversial virtual currency called Bitcoin is starting to take off. And as usually Talmazan reports, Vancouver businesses and consumers are among the first to embrace this new form of money.
SFU student Michael Young gets his coffee every morning, but it's how he pays for it that makes him different.
So the coffee shop's Bitcoin address is right there. I press the send button.
He's using something called Bitcoin.
And there it is on my side.
A new digital currency that's becoming increasingly popular with local businesses.
There's a buzz around Bitcoin. I think for any company that wants to be innovative and start to take advantage of trends, this is one of them.
Bitcoin is an idea that may revolutionize the way we use money. It's free of government interference and completely decentralized.
In the Bitcoin system, it's all the users has input on how the system works. So it's more of a democratic way of running money.
For local companies, taking Bitcoin is a cheaper way to do business.
There's no merchant fees, unlike the other big names like Visa, MasterCard, and all the other merchant services charge you every single time you run a transaction. This doesn't.
Massage therapist Michael Bliss started accepting Bitcoin years ago when it was still very new, and so far, so good.
Every additional form of payment is always helpful, but also it's an alternative to sort of mainstream banking, which appeals to us.
But this business owner is willing to take the risk.
It's more of people's perspective and trust towards the currency. As that trust increases, and I think by retail outlets taking it and accepting it and becoming more mainstream, the trust will increase, as will the value.
Yulia Talmazan, Global News.
And Barry DeLay is here with me now.
What you were watching there is a selection of clips from Global BC's 6 o'clock news report the other night. And just a note, that was used under the Fair Use Clause in copyright law, which allows me to use it for commentary purposes and educational use, as long as it's non-profit. So, but unfortunately I stopped the clip right there, and the woman on the left asked the man on the right what he thought of the previous story, and his response was hilarious. He laughed and said he thought it was cool, but, quote, "I prefer real money." Priceless. The U.S. Mint just updated their website, and as expected, they've added another 800,000 Silver Eagles to the total for August. So we're now at approximately 2.5 million Eagles sold in August. And looking back, that compares fairly well. And if you extrapolate that out, it looks like we're going to end the month around 4.0. So another massive month, another record month, an all-time record August. Maybe not, because what I think is going to happen is they will update next Monday, throwing another 800,000 Eagles on here, and we'll end up somewhere around 3.4 or so. And the all-time record was 3.6, set back in August of 2011. So I think what they're going to do is just do the Monday update and then pretend that there's no more sold that month, and then dump the rest into September. One thing I've noticed about September, though, is that it has 5 Mondays in the month. So I don't think they're going to continue with their pattern of reporting only on every Monday. I think that worked for them in July and August to pretend that they had that pattern going, even though it just sort of appeared in July and August. It never was the case before. They updated whenever they felt like it. All of a sudden in July and August it was Mondays only. And that's because there's only 4 Mondays in each of these months, so they can report less. Now in September, there's going to be 5 Mondays. I think they're going to get rid of that pattern and do something different. But we'll worry about September when it comes. For August, I think what's going to happen is about 3.4 million is going to end up showing on here so that they can say it was not an all-time record August. Funny that they've managed to hide most of those headlines that should have been there for the year. You know, all-time record January was impossible to hide because they carried some over from December. But all these other months, about half of them, they've managed to avoid saying that it was an all-time record high month. But overall, if you look at the year, we're going to end up at about 47 million ounces sold over the year, which is so far above any previous record set back in 2011 that it's just amazing that they can avoid the headlines in the monthly totals. I'm not going to talk about this chart for long. You've seen it before. We're about 62%. I forgot to change that here. It's 62, not 60% of the way through the year. And you can see that we're almost up to the total number of Silver Eagles sold in 2012. We've almost reached that. And very soon after that, we'll surpass 2010's total. And that leaves only 2011 to beat. And my projection is still somewhere around 47 for the total for the year. Just quickly, I had some recent problems with Hotmail. They're called Outlook now, I guess, but it's Microsoft basically. And they were requiring me to give a phone number in order to continue using my account, you know, for my security and all that garbage. So what it didn't say is that if you decline to give a phone number, they will allow you to use an email address, but they don't tell you that until you say, I don't, you know, basically you have to say, okay, I give up, I lose my account. And then they're like, well, hey, you can stay with us if you give us an alternate email. So what I did was I got an alternate email, I got it from myself. I have websites, so I can just make email accounts, and now I'm back into my account. So if that's you, if you're in that same boat, I think they're kind of rolling out this, quote, security upgrade for everybody. That's one thing you can do. Don't be afraid to say, I don't have a phone number, or don't be afraid to say, this is not my phone number, and then you'll find that the next step will allow you to give an email instead, which is very disingenuous of them, but that's how they roll, and I just wanted to let you guys know, if that's you, get an alternate email and give that to them, and you'll be able to maintain access to your Hotmail account. Find out if you need to give biometrics. If you're visiting Canada now, apparently we are going to take your fingerprints and a detailed scan of your face so that we can analyze your facial structure and find you in any camera or wherever you happen to go. And they're adding slowly to the list of countries that are subject to this. Colombia, Haiti, Jamaica, for example, but Iraq and Libya and all those type of countries are in here as well. So they're sort of starting off with certain parts of the world where people will accept this, you know, if you know what I mean. Canadians don't mind if we are, say, we're going to take away the rights of anyone visiting who's from Sudan or Burma or Vietnam or something like that. But this list is growing, and it will continue to grow, and so will the types of ID they're going to take. Next thing, it will be retinal scans and or DNA probably. So it's just another example of the way that your privacy and your rights and your anonymity are slowly being taken. Actually, it's not all that slow these days. I haven't been talking about Fukushima for a long time, but it's not because I'm not continuing to follow the story, and it's not because it's gone away. So if you aren't aware of what's going on, I really invite you to check it out. It has not only gotten worse, but the lies that the TEPCO and that the government of Japan told are starting to come to light now. And they are finally admitting that they were lying all along, and it was a full nuclear meltdown. And there is an incredibly large amount of radiation spilling out into the ocean and the air, and changing the planet. They're now talking about building a ice wall underground by pumping coolant into the ground to try and contain groundwater. This is just another pretend measure to, you know, to make it look like they're doing something. It's not going to work. It will have absolutely no effect, and nothing that they can do is going to be able to change this. So this is a story that the mainstream media dropped long ago and is continuing to get worse. Well, that about ends this vlog style video, but I'll give you a parting shot of some copper coins here, and now we'll move on to a little bit of footage from my garden and a little bit of random musings as I was sitting out in the garden the other day looking at some tomato plants. So if you're not interested, then that's the end of the video for you. Otherwise, enjoy. Jeez. I swore I wouldn't do that again. That's so immature. There are all sorts of potatoes coming up in this little patch here. I just threw a bag of potatoes that had gone spuddy in here, and there's just tons of them all over the place, so it's going to be a good harvest in about 2 more months. Ta-da! Here are the Sweet 100 tomato plants in Grandma's garden. There are only 5, but got a bit of a jungle going here. And as you can see, there's all kinds of different stakes now, because each of those main suckers has had to be staked up. I'll show you over here. This sucker comes off there and grows up almost as tall as the main part of the plant, and each sucker is going to produce about 1 or 2 clusters of flowers, and the main branch is going to have 1 to probably 3 clusters of flowers. So I should get about 5 clusters of fruit on each plant this year. And it's kind of interesting the way you can customize your tomato plants. You can cut off different parts, pinch off different parts. I've already topped these ones, so they won't be getting any more new growth this year. They're just going to finish up what they've already started. and some of that is very small, like right here. But that will have enough time, as long as we don't have an early fall this year, that we'll have enough time to finish developing. But yeah, I've staked up these side branches because they're getting quite big, and the main branch has obviously been staked for a while. And I'll take you over to the Amish paste. They are a little different looking plant. One thing that's different about them is the leaves are kind of curled. They come out, I don't know if you can see that, they come out sort of all twisted like that, and then they uncurl and expand as they go. But yeah, the flowers are different too on these ones. And the tomatoes, of course, will be slightly different than the Sweet 100s. You get about 7 or 8 maybe per cluster instead of 15 to 25 on the Sweet 100s. But I have staked up these as well. And yeah, I'm just really happy with the growth. The overall plant is very healthy. There's almost no aphids or other pests to speak of. There's no rot or any of the other blight problems that happen with tomatoes. Now that I say that, I'm wondering what these little dots here are. But the leaves are very green, nice and dark. Lots of photosynthesizing going on, lots of growth. It's just very lush, and a part of it's due to the soil that Grandpa left behind. It's really nice, rich soil, and I enjoy growing tomatoes in here year after year, generation after generation. There's something very fractal about the way a plant grows, especially a tomato plant. Obviously you can see the spiral there. This is a Sweet 100 tomato variety, and you can see on the right hand side the most developed of the group of flowers, and then just to the left of that, it's facing away from us, is the next one. Then that bright one up top, yellow one, is the next, and so on and so forth, all the way down to that spiral there. And they haven't all finished developing actually yet. If you can see there, it just sort of goes to infinity. And there's, I guess, differentiating cells there that become different parts of stems and different parts of flowers and whatnot, but they haven't finished deciding how many flowers there are going to be on this cluster. So the more nutrients the plant gets, it can continue that, and this will unfurl, and eventually it'll drape down alongside the plant, a long cluster of tomatoes. I've counted about 22 flowers altogether, including the ones that have developed into tomatoes already. And it's just really a joy to work with plants, in my opinion anyway. I feel an affinity for plants. I feel like plants are part of the same chain of life on this planet that animals are. We branched off a long time ago from the family tree, but they are still in our family. It's just that they are very, very distant relatives now. And I just enjoy learning about how plants grow, what they need to be happy, what they need to survive, how to make them the best they can be. And I like going from generation to generation in tomato plants because they're annual plants. That's one generation per year. So next year I'll be taking the seeds that are already in here, already developing inside here, and turning those seeds into next year's plants, and those will provide the seeds for the year after. So I'm kind of like the caretaker of a generation of tomato plants, and these individual plants are all sisters and brothers and family members of each other, and these are essentially the children of last year's crop, and these are their children in a way. It's very analogous to animal life.